Hi, this is Mike Galen with the Hagman Media Group, and today we're talking to Marianne McInerney, the CMO of Cenntro. Marianne, I'd like you to give us a quick brief on what Cenntro is all about.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me today, by the way, Mike. Cenntro launched in 2013 with a really firm focus on commercial vehicles. That's always been the focus of the company, and it has had a long view on the transformation of IC vehicles into EVs. The firm is New Jersey based, where it's been this entire time. We launched with the Metro, a low-speed vehicle in 2014 that I like to say has more applications than a Swiss Army knife. It's used in agriculture and surveillance on campuses. It's, again, a low-speed vehicle with tons and tons and tons of applications. It's now distributed 7 years later. It's now distributed in more than 30 countries. And the drive system boasts about 19 million miles driven, which we're extremely proud of. Internally, we like to say the Metro is a little bit of our incubator. Again, started out as a low-speed vehicle, but it really allowed us to work on all aspects of our business, from the technology to sourcing to our manufacturing. And I think the momentum that you're going to see from Cenntro is really a result of all the work that was put into the Metro and our focus on our drive system and our sourcing. We're really pleased now that we're preparing to launch two vehicles, a Class 2 vehicle and a Class 4, along with our iChassis, our self-driving application. That's about a year out.
So are you an OEM, a tier one, or something else?
Well, I think in traditional senses, we're an OEM, but internally we define ourselves as a technology company. And that is the metric to which we try and work towards. Yes, we make vehicles. Clearly our portfolio reflects that, but I think EVs and AVs require a very firm focus on the tech side. And so while we are certainly an OEM, we definitely give ourselves a little bit of definition as a tech company.
So your first vehicles were EVs, correct?
Yes, all of our vehicles are dedicated EVs.
But sticking with the present vehicles, as opposed to iChassis for a second, are you building them for specific applications? And if so, how are they fitting in?
All of our vehicles are really focused on logistics. So the ability to move goods from point A to point B and to do so in a sustainable way. The Metro, as I said, distributed now in almost 30 countries, is used by companies like Amazon Fleet and Hannah Cupid in Japan. One of the first imported vehicles to be named, to be certified as a K car. They are used as food delivery. They're used in applications for agriculture, but truly they're fitting in everywhere. And so we use the Metro as really our divining rod to see where we could make inroads with EVs. So we would say we're an electric vehicle company, and that's been our dedicated focus. Our two new offerings have really made us completely proud. One is our LS, what we call our LS200 series, which is available as a van and as a cab and a chassis. That was purpose-built for Europe, really for the density of their streets, and really responding to what we are hearing from the market. Year to date, we have delivered 200 vehicles from its time of launch, which only occurred in early November. And we have a great demand for those vehicles. So we're really pleased where that's fallen into place. The LS400 is a Class 4 vehicle. It's available as a cab and a chassis and a step van. We are just at the early stages of that launch. It's a robust vehicle. We've had it on display in New York City. We're preparing it now for the Work Truck Show, where we really hope people will come out and kick the tires and drive it around. But it's really designed for robust duty cycles. It supports a range of applications, food and beverage, parcel delivery, linen delivery, maintenance, and waste management. But it provides, I think it will provide fleets with a quality and safe vehicle that offers a really solid range. So the range right now is about 124 miles. The payload is about 5,600 pounds, and top speed is 62 miles per hour.
So based on those figures, it sounds to me like it's an urban suburban application primarily.
Yes, yes, urban logistics.
We had talked earlier about the background of the company and some of the founders' desires in terms of competition. And the question is, price-wise and marketplace, how do you compete with ICE vehicles? And secondarily, who's competing with you, if anyone, on the BEV side, the battery electric vehicle side in this area?
Well, it's interesting when we talk about competition. I guess our company has a little bit of a different view on that. Candidly, I believe that the demand and where the market is headed, there's enough room for everyone to put their products forward. So I don't really see EVs as competing with each other, EV companies competing with each other. I really believe we're competing with ICE vehicles. And that should really be the focus. I mean, a rising tide, as they like to say, carries all ships. And I believe the same is true for EVs. In our case, we are focused on the Class 4 market, and we're focused on Class 2 and Class 3. And I think for us, that's a sweet spot. A lot of others in the market have really focused on Class 6. If we look at Lion or Class 8. And so I believe that there's enough room for all of us to grow, and for all of us to collectively show that EVs can offer sustainability as well as reliability in the logistics end of the market. As it relates to ICEs, we kind of have a different focus on that as well. We're a little unique. Our founder said 10 years ago that he did not want to get into these other classes unless he could deliver a vehicle that was price competitive with an ICE. He wanted it to have a low acquisition price, and he wanted it to have a low total cost of ownership. So our marching orders now for 8+ years has been to try and deliver that package. And we also have again, a unique view on where the market can go. I think, Mike, everyone likes to focus on the top 20, right? These are the biggest fleets. We have to get in there. That's the proving stone. Those are the most robust, and I don't disagree. Those are customers we're talking to. Those are customers where we want our vehicles to be placed. And I think that they have a different requirement, robust duty cycles, and give everyone the right halo effect. But if we look at government incentives, there's a whole nother part of the market that has to be covered. There's regional, right? There's the regional market. There's upfitters. All of those vehicles, according to today's government standards, have to begin to transition to EVs or any other alternative, hydrogen, et cetera. For us, that's a big focus. We want to make sure that it's not just the big fleets, the top 50 that are going to purchase EVs. We're also very focused on what I call this middle market. And I think that's an important distinction for our company. It's not that we want to be all things to all people. That's not what we're trying to do. We will not be all things to all fleets, but we think that we can provide a reliable vehicle that has multiple applications that will hit the price point, whether you are at this level or whether you're in the top 50. And so that's really where we're focused.
Fleet operations, whether they be passenger cars to Class 8 trucks, in a lot of cases are set in their ways because the maintenance side of the business, they like doing things without making big investments. In other words, their people know how to work on certain types of vehicles. Their shops are set up with tooling and other equipment for certain types of vehicles, et cetera. So there's a reluctance, there is a perceived reluctance to change. Have you run into any of that in trying to get into some of these fleets? Not necessarily the largest, but any fleet.
Well, no, I think you're right. It's an educational point that we have to be able to make. we have to be able to show and show consistently that this is the maintenance that's required on these vehicles. And it's again, it's a pivot that has to be made. I know for our focus, we are very keen to one, educate those who are in the maintenance field about electric vehicles and their regular maintenance cycles. That's a big focus for us. We think it's important for the industry as a whole. We're really excited by some of the companies we hear that are getting ready to lean in on EVs. And I think there's some really exciting announcements that the industry will see and hear. But I don't think we've come into resistance there. I don't think the resistance is on the maintenance part. I think the resistance sometimes is, can the vehicle really continue to demonstrate its value and worth and be reliable day in and day out, regular duty cycles, and perform where an ICE has. That again is what fleets know. And so when we throw a different vehicle in there, they want that vehicle to operate exactly the same. And candidly, at this point in the industry, it should be able to operate at the same place and pivot as an ICE vehicle. That's what we believe, and I think that's what we intend to deliver.
Does your 125-mile range that you quoted a little while ago, does that mitigate some issues with the lack of charging points in a lot of urban settings, especially in the Northeast?
You know, it's interesting because there's so many discussions going on about charging points. I think from Cenntros' perspective, we want to know everything about the routes and applications of where our vehicles will fit into a fleet. That's important most of all, because that's managing the right expectation. 125 miles for a majority of fleets who follow the same routes on a regular basis, meaning maybe every day, or they have a different route every cycle every other day. I believe that this will allow them to hit the market and feel comfortable that the driver can leave the warehouse, deliver multiple stops, and come back to the warehouse at the end of the day. We have never thought about that interim charging. We do have customers that talk to us about that. And we know that we are working in some cases with fleets that want to get that extra charge because their vehicle might be delivering for a long period of time at a supermarket, for example. And so we know that we are working with them to identify a charging point either at that facility or at a nearby facility when the driver might stop.
I know it's early in the entire evolution of this business, this type of business, but I'm wondering if horror stories about battery fires have caused issues in any communities in which you're trying to sell, where they've questioned internal, in-building storage of vehicles and fleets, et cetera, and the potential dangers due to these, battery fires.
Well, I think that's been a reality in the market. I will say to you that on the fleet discussion side, that question has not come up. However, I believe it's important for every EV OEM to ensure that their vehicle can withstand its operation on impact. And sometimes if there happen to be a side impact where a battery might be involved, you might not see any activity or any impact immediately. It sometimes can take days, weeks, etc. And so I think it's incumbent on all of us to test to the highest standards. And again, that's our viewpoint, and that's what we intend to do with all of our vehicles.
What kind of sales have you had since you started? I think you said 2014 is when you started. Is that when you started delivering?
It's when we started delivering the Metro. And again, that's been robust for us. We've sold more than 3,800 vehicles since that time in more than, 29 countries. We're really pleased with how the drive system has performed in multiple environments. So we have got a great deal of confidence. And again, we're just at the early launch with our LS200 and our LS400 series. So a little bit of time. Ask me in a year's time, or maybe in 6 months, and I'll be happy to be back with you.
You say you're based in New Jersey, Cenntro, in the States. Where is the vehicle produced? Where are the vehicles produced?
So we source the vehicles across multiple countries. We've got a big focus on the Asian market for most of our supply chain. Batteries, again, are a little bit different. So as you know, we have to have a lot of redundancy in our battery sourcing. And in fact, if we talk in a year, I'd probably tell you that we are developing our own battery packs at that time, just to, again, create a little more reliance on ourselves and a little better control. We intend to have 6+ assembly points globally. We're standing up a factory in Jacksonville, Florida. I'll be down there actually this week, getting ready to stand the rest of that factory up. We're really excited about its potential. We intend to have a second facility in the US as well, probably mid or West Coast. And we have additional facilities being stood up in Japan and in Germany.
And these are assembly plants, assembly facilities.
Facilities.
To switch from the present and talk a little bit about the near and long-term future and the iChassis that you just unveiled and demoed. Tell me a little about the iChassis concept, what it is and how it differs from where you've been.
I'd love to. Thanks for asking about it. I am not sure our founder, Peter Wang, intended to be an early pioneer in AI or AV, but he has found himself exactly in that spot. 4 years ago, the company began working on an autonomous drive system, and that we call the iChassis. It has been driving and gaining mileage for 4 years on our grounds, and we've modified the design from the one that we showed at CES to more of a skateboard approach, which we will be showing in the very near future. We're really excited by the iChassis because we think it really opens up a new answer to some last mile logistics and allows companies to really focus in a different way on gaining efficiencies, both in delivery and on how they use personnel and resources. The iChassis was engineered to really redefine, I think redefine is probably the right word, last mile logistics. And we're excited by the response that we've had. We think it can be used for, again, many municipal services, street sweeping, not very sexy, but it's a reality. Surveillance on campuses. We love the mobile locker concept, and we're talking to several companies that would like to pilot that program. So in that way, the mobile locker actually would send you a note, Mike, and would say, hey, we have your delivery. We're going to be coming during this window of time. It would come to your house or location. You would be geofenced, and your phone would allow you to, scan a barcode. You'd go out to the sidewalk. You'd open it with your phone. The box would open. You'd take your delivery out, and you'd go back to your house, and the iChassis would move on. We think that's a really exciting application for not only the last mile, but also the last 10 feet of delivery. Mm-hmm. And I think increasingly we're all focused on the last 10 feet. My kids think I'm nuts when I talk about this, but they will be the ones who ultimately benefit.
Interesting. Now, this is completely autonomous, or is there a drone driver in a remote location? No, or is it either or?
This is completely autonomous.
So you're talking about a vehicle that you program in all the stops, the route, the activities Correct. It takes along the way, depending on its application, and off it goes.
Correct. So, and it has multiple redundancies within it. So it's got, it has, many different ways that it's it's creating those measurements. It's got a millimeter, what we call a millimeter laser. It has an ultrasound measurement. And then it also has a mechanical brake. So again, in our application currently, it's a low speed vehicle because we don't think it needs to be street speed at this time. It doesn't need to be highway speed. But again, we think this is the entry level application for autonomous vehicles. I really admire, Waymo and others who look at it as human transport. I think that's a really important space, especially for those who have, different disabilities, whether it's sight or others. That's an important place. Our focus currently is just on logistics.
How do you deal with things like pedestrians, cyclists, dog walkers, and rural mailboxes, even, that stick out that are not necessarily uniform in placement along the roadway?
You're absolutely right. I think that's where we come in with our, what we like to call our laser systems. And again, we have a redundancy built in because ultimately the pedestrian is who we have to be aware of. But again, with a low speed application, and we think these vehicles will not be within that stream of traffic. Again, as a low speed vehicle, they're going to be operating between 25 and probably 32 miles per hour. They're inching along in the urban environment. But again, we have to have redundancy of readings in order to ensure that we capture all movement, and movement means people, and by that, movement also means obstacles. Do we see an obstacle, and does the vehicle need to pivot?
The challenges I know are many, and I won't go into all of the technology right now. It's early, but the real question is, what's the market like? How much interest do you have from end users for applications for this product or a derivative of this product? I mean, it's one thing to do something experimentally and conceptually, but do you see a commercial application, and how quickly might we see one of these on the road?
We have been extremely pleased by the strong interest that the company has received from national level chains in the United States and in Europe. Again, this was a concept we've been working on for 4 years quietly, as we do most things. Most things that we do because the company has a natural curiosity. There's an idea and a concept. In this case, our chairman himself said, this is something I'd like to try to see if it's possible. And so we've just been doing it quietly while others have been talking about it much more publicly. That's just not our DNA. But we decided to show it at CES because that's a technology show. And for us, we wanted to be able to show what we think the future of mobility is. So we decided to put the iChassis out there for others to see. The response was something I could not have anticipated. And I project we will spend most of our spring talking about the iChassis and how it can be used.
Any time frame that we can see the first on-road application?
I know internally we hope to have it in pilots and on the road within a year. But it would be our skateboard concept. And again, I can send you a couple of photos of that so you have it. But again, our idea would be to have it out there in pilots in the next year.
So as a recap, your traditional but EV powered vehicles are out there now in the field in the United States and you said 29 countries, I believe, around the world. It sounds like there's more than 4,000 different commercial vehicles on the road from your 3 different types, right? The Metro, the LS 200 and 400. Has the 400 launched, by the way?
400 is just launching now.
Just launching.
Yeah,
Okay.
just launching now.
In use. Can you share any of the people that are using those vehicles, the Metro or the LS 200 now?
Oh yeah. Gosh, if I think about our customers, I mentioned Amazon Fleet is using it in Japan. We're really excited about that. I believe there's an Amazon distribution service using it in Germany as well. Our vehicles are used at many international airports. You know, we're really proud of it. I think it's on the ground at Heathrow and several others, London City Airport as well. Again, for us, for so long, we've just been pleased that people can see and use and understand the reality that EVs can offer to them, not just in terms of sustainability, but that electric vehicles and those that we deliver will really stand up to the day-to-day needs that logistics demand.
Is Cenntro a successful company in your mind and in the company's mind?
Yes, I think Cenntro is a successful company. Cenntro, though, is different than many that you have out on the market today. We're a quiet company. We really are focused on delivering the vehicles on time and at the price that we internally target. We are very focused on R&D and the supply chain at all times. We are not about hype. We are not really about brand recognition. What really makes us tick is that our vehicles that we deliver will have a place in the market, and you know, candidly, will stand the test of time.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I much appreciate your time and this background on Cenntro and what you're doing now and what you're doing in the future.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I look forward to future discussions.